Sylvester, chapter 24. "Now what's amiss?" said Tom, limping to the door. It sounds as if the pink of the tun has found a speck of mud on his coat. "Pet! Pet!" bellowed Sir Nugent, descending the stairs. "Pet, where are you? Pet, I say!" As Tom pulled the door wide, Sylvester set Sir Edmund on his feet, demanding, "What in God's name ails the fellow?" With a final appeal to Pet, as he crossed the hall, Sir Nugent appeared in the doorway, nursing in his arms a pair of glossy Hessians, and commanding the occupants of the coffee-room to look, only to look. "Don't make that infernal noise," said Sylvester sharply. "Look at what?" "That cur! That mongrel!" Sir Nugent shouted. "I'll hang him. I'll tear him limb from limb. By God, I will!" "Oh, sir, what is it?" cried Pet, running into the room. "Look!" roared Sir Nugent, holding out the boots. They were the Hessians of his own design, but gone were their golden tassels. Pet gave a moan, and fell back with starting eyes. Tom shot one quick look at Edmund, and tried to keep his countenance, and, failing, leaned against the door in a fit of unseemly laughter. And Phoebe, after one choking moment, managed to say, "Oh dear, how very unfortunate. But pray don't be distressed, Sir Nugent. You may have new ones put on after all." "New ones, Pet? If it was you who left the door open so that mongrel could get into my room, you leave my service today. Now, do you hear me?" "Never," cried Pet dramatically. "The chambermaid, sir, the boots, anyone but me." Balked Sir Nugent rounded on Tom. "By God, I believe it was you. Laugh, will you? You let that cur into my room." "No, of course I didn't," said Tom. "I'm sure I beg your pardon, but of all the kick-ups only for a pair of boots." "Only—" Sir Nugent took a hasty step towards him, almost purple with rage. "Draw his cork, Tom, draw his cork," begged Edmund, his angelic blue eyes blazing with excitement. "Fotherby, will you control yourself?" Sylvester said angrily. "Sir, there is no scratch on them. At least we are spared that," Pet said. "I shall scour Paris day and night, sir. I shall leave no stone unturned. I shall—" "My own design," mourned Sir Nugent, unheeding. 5 times did Hobie have them back before I was satisfied. "Oh, sir, shall I ever forget? What a couple of bedlamites," remarked Sylvester to Phoebe, his eyebrows steeply soaring, his tone one of light content. "Gudgeon," said Edmund experimentally, one eye on his mentor. But as Tom was telling Sylvester the tale of Shien's previous assault on the Hessians, this essay passed unheeded. Sir Nugent, becoming momentarily more like an actor in a Greek tragedy, was lamenting over one boot, while Pet nursed the other, and recalling every circumstance that had led him to design such a triumph of modishness. Sylvester, losing all patience, exclaimed, "This is ridiculous." "Ridiculous," said Edmund, savouring a new word. "You can't say that," cried Sir Nugent, stung. "Do you know how many hours I spent deciding between a plain gold band round the top or a twisted cord? Do you—" "I am not amused by frippery. I shall be—" "Ridiculous, Gudgeon." "Obliged to you. What did you say?" Sylvester, arrested by Edmund's gleeful voice, turned sharply. The question, most wrathfully uttered, hung in the air. One scared look up into Sylvester's face, and Edmund hung his head. Even Sir Nugent ceased to repine and waited for the answer. But Edmund prudently refrained from answering. Sylvester, with equal prudence, did not repeat the question, but said sternly, "Don't let me hear your voice again." He then turned back to the bereaved dandy and said, "I shall be obliged to you if you will bring this exhibition to a close and give me your attention." But at this moment the young person arrived on the scene with an urgent summons from Ianthe. My lady, alarmed by the sounds that had reached her ears, desired her husband to come up to her room immediately. "I must go to her," announced Sir Nugent. "She will be in despair when she learns of this outrage." "Nugent," she said, when I put them on yesterday, "the first time, only once worn. You will set a fashion," she said. "I must go to her at once." With that he laid the boot he was still holding in Pet's arms and hurried from the room. Pet, with a deprecating look at Sylvester, said, "Your Grace will forgive us. It is a sad loss. A great blow, Your Grace. Take yourself off." "Yes, Your Grace, at once, Your Grace," said Pet, bowing himself out in haste. "As for you," Sylvester said, still addressing his sinful nephew, "if ever I hear such impertinence from you again, it will be very much the worse for you. Now go." "I won't do it again," said Edmund in a small, pleading voice. "I said go." Scarlet-faced, Edmund fled. This painful interlude afforded Phoebe an opportunity to resume hostilities, and she told Sylvester that his conduct was brutal. "It is extremely improper, moreover, to vent your own ill temper on the poor child. It would have been enough for you to have given him a quiet reproof. I was never more shocked." "When I wish for your advice, Miss Marlowe, be sure that I will ask for it," he replied. She got up quickly and walked to the door. "Take care what you are about," she said warningly as a parting shot. "I am not one of your unfortunate servants, obliged to submit to your odious arrogance." "One moment," he said. She looked back, very ready to continue to do battle. "Since Fotherby appears to be unable to think of anything but his boots, perhaps you, Miss Marlowe, will be good enough to inform Lady Irons of my arrival," said Sylvester. "Will you also, if you please, pack Edmund's clothes? I wish to remove him from this place as soon as possible." This request startled her into exclaiming, "You can't take him away at this hour. Why, it's past his bedtime already. It may suit you to travel by night, but it won't do for Edmund." "I have no intention of travelling by night, but only of removing to some other hotel. We shall leave for Calais in the morning." "Then you will remove without me," said Phoebe. "Have you no thought for anyone's convenience but your own? What do you imagine must be my feelings if you can condescend to consider anything so trifling? While I was one of Sir Nugent's party, my lack of baggage passed unheeded, but in yours it will not. And if you think I am going to one of the fashionable hotels in a travel-stained dress and nothing but a small bandbox for luggage, you are very much mistaken, Duke." "Of what conceivable importance are the stairs or the curiosity of a parcel of hotel servants?" he asked, raising his eyebrows. "Oh, how like you!" she cried. "How very like you! To be sure, the mantle of your rank and consequence will cast over me, won't it? How delightful it will be to become so elevated as to treat with indifference the opinions of inferior persons. As I am not using my title, and my consequence, as you are pleased to call it, is contained in one portmanteau, you will find my mantle somewhat threadbare." Sylvester flung at her. "However, set your mind at rest. I shall hire a private parlour for your use, so you will at least not be obliged to endure the stares of your fellow guests." At this point Thomas entered the caveat. "I don't think you should do that, Salford," he said. "You're forgetting that the dibs aren't in tune." A look of vexation came into Sylvester's face. "Very well, we will put up at some small inn such as this." "The inns are most of them as full as they can hold," Tom warned him. "If we have to drive all over town looking for a small inn that has rooms for the 4 of us, we shall very likely be up till midnight." "Do you expect me to remain here?" demanded Sylvester. "Well, there's plenty of room." "If there is room here, there will be no room nowhere else," interpolated Phoebe. "Sir Nugent is hiring the whole house, having turned out the wretched people who were here before us. And why you should look like that I can't conceive, when it is just what you did yourself, when you made Mrs. Scaling give up her coffee-room for your private use." "And who, pray, were the people I turned out with the blue ball?" asked Sylvester. "Well, it so happened that they weren't any, but I don't doubt you would have turned them out." "Oh, indeed? Then let me tell you—" "Listen," begged Tom. "You can be as insulting to one another as you please all the way to Dover, and I swear I won't say a word. But for the Lord's sake, what are we to do first? They'll be coming to set the covers for dinner soon. I don't blame you for not wanting to stay here, Salford, but what pockets to let? And young Edmund on our hands, what else can we do? If you don't choose to let Fotherby stand the nonsense, you can arrange with Madam to pay your own shot." "Well, I am going to put Edmund to bed," said Phoebe, "and if you try to drag him away from me, Duke, I shall tell him that you are being cruel to me, which will very likely set him against you, particularly after your cruelty to him." On this threat she departed, leaving Sylvester without a word to say. Tom grinned at him. "Yes, you don't want Edmund to tell everyone you're a bad man. He's got Fotherby regularly blue-devilled, as I can assure you. Come to think of it, he's already set it about that you grind men's bones for bread." Sylvester's lip twitched, but he said, "It seems to me that Edmund has been allowed to become abominably out of hand. As for you, Thomas, if I have much more of your damned impudence—" "That's better," said Tom encouragingly. "I thought you were never coming out from your high ropes. I say, Salford—" He was interrupted by the return of Sir Nugent, who came into the room just then, an expression of settled gloom on his countenance. "Have you told Irons that I am here?" at once demanded Sylvester. "Good God, no, I wouldn't tell her for the world," replied Sir Nugent, shocked. "Particularly now. She's very much distressed. Feels it's just as I knew she must. You will have to steal the boy while we are asleep. In the middle of the night, you know. I shall do nothing so improper." "Don't take me up so," said Nugent fretfully. "No impropriety at all. You are thinking you would be obliged to creep into Miss Marlowe's bedchamber." "I am thinking nothing of the sort," said Sylvester with considerable asperity. "There you go again," complained Sir Nugent. "Dashed well snapping my nose off the instant I opened my mouth. No question of creeping into her room. She'll bring the boy out to you. You'll have to take her along with you, of course, and I'm not sure that Aude hadn't better go too, because you never know but her ladyship might bubble the hoax if you stayed behind. The thing is, you needn't tell me. Thomas, either you may stop laughing, or I shall leave you to rot here. Understand me, Fotherby. I have no need to steal my ward. Neither you nor Irons has the power to prevent my removing him. Well, though I am going to do so, I have enough respect for her sensibility as to not wish only to inform her of my intention, but to assure her that every care shall be taken of the boy. Now perhaps you will either conduct me to Irons or go tell her yourself that I am taking Edmund home tomorrow. No, I won't, said Sir Nugent. You may have the right to do it. Well, I know you have. Ask my attorney. But does her lordship know it? What I mean is, will she own she knows it? If you think she will, Duke, all I can say is you don't know much about females. Which is absurd, because you don't bamboozle me into believing you don't offer a carte blanche. Not a year after your come out to... What was that little light skirt's name? You know the one I mean. A regular high flyer with yellow curls, and we will leave my affairs out of this discussion, said Sylvester, rigid with anger. Oh, just as you wish. Not but what I've often wanted to ask you. However, as I can see you'll fly up into the bows, so never mind that. The thing is, if I was to tell her lordship what was in the wind, she'd expect me to stop you making off with the brat. And let alone I don't want to stop you, how the devil could I? You know what females are, Duke. Oh, no objection to my saying that, is there? She'll think I ought to pull out a sword, and it wouldn't be a mite of use telling her I haven't got a sword, because the trouble with females is they ain't rational. And a pretty time I should have of it while you are running off with the boy, as merry as cup and can. Why, I shouldn't wonder at it if she didn't forgive me for a 12-month. That, said Sylvester, is your affair. Well, of all the scaly things to say, gasped Sir Nugent, here's me anxious to help you to the boy, and instead of... Oh, my God, haven't you gone to bed yet? This exclamation was caused by the appearance on the threshold of Master Rain, bearing all the look of one who, having reached a painful decision, was not to be turned from it. He was followed by Phoebe, who said, Edmund wishes to speak to you before he goes to bed, Sir Nugent. No, take him away, said Sir Nugent. I've had a very unpleasant shock, not by any means in prime twig. It isn't wish exactly, said Edmund, walking resolutely up to his chair and standing before him with his hands behind his back. If you please, I beg pardon for having called you a gudgeon, sir. Ridiculous gudgeon, he added conscientiously. Sir Nugent waved him peevishly away. Oh, very well. And also, said Edmund heroically, it wasn't Shen. It was me, and I'm sorry. And here they are. As he spoke, he brought his hands from behind his back and opening them disclosed two dishevelled tassels. Phoebe, unprepared for this gesture, gave a gasp of consternation. Sir Nugent, after staring for a tense moment at the tassels, said chokingly, You, by God, if I don't, Fotherby. Sylvester's voice, ripping across the room, checked the infuriated dandy as he started up menacingly from his chair. Sylvester came quickly forward, and Edmund, though he had stood his ground, breathed more easily. You dare, Sylvester said through his teeth. I was only going to give him a shake, said Sir Nugent sulkily. Damn it, I'm his father-in-law, ain't I? Sylvester uttered a short, contemptuous laugh and looked down at Edmund. Give me those tassels, brat, and be off to bed. Edmund relinquished them, but said dolefully, I thought you wouldn't be angry any more if I said I was sorry. I'm not angry, Sylvester said, tickling his cheek with one careless finger. Word of a rain. Good night, you imp. Don't keep Miss Marlowe waiting. You're not angry, exploded Sir Nugent. I wonder you don't reward the young viper. I may yet, replied Sylvester coolly. He has done what I could not, given you your own again. When you kidnapped that boy, Fotherby, you knew yourself safe from me, because I would not publish my affairs to the world. I doubt if anything I could have done would have caused you such anguish as Edmund has made you suffer. Bless him, he's full of spunk. How his father would have laughed. I have a good mind to call you out, upon my soul I have, Sir Nugent threatened. I don't think you have, Sylvester tossed at him. I am accounted a fair shot, my hero. I fancy, said Sir Nugent, fulminating, that Nugent Fotherby is as game a man as ever lived. I fancy if you were to ask anyone, that would be the answer. The thing is, her lordship wouldn't like it. Must cherish her. But if she thinks I'm going to take that changeling of hers along with us... The very thought of Edmund seemed to choke him, for he broke off, his collar mounting again, snatched up the tassels which Sylvester had dropped disdainfully on the table, and stormed out of the room. Tom could not but feel that Edmund's confession had still further complicated matters, for the Poisson Rouge now seemed hardly big enough to hold both Sylvester and Sir Nugent. But Edmund's villainy was soon found to have exercised a good effect. Ianthe, when the story was poured into her ears, said that Edmund must be punished. Sir Nugent told her bitterly that Sylvester would not allow it, so the secret of Sylvester's arrival was out. Ianthe fell back on her pillows with a shriek, but Sir Nugent, forgetting his marriage vows, informed her, smiting her dressing-table with his clenched fist so that all the gold-topped bottles on it jumped, that she might there and then choose between him and her hell-born brat. This show of violence quite overawed her. She was also a good deal impressed, for it was clearly a proof of masculine superiority to which she instinctively responded. Her protest, though maintained tearfully, began to lack conviction, and when Sylvester, taking the law into his own hands, knocked on her door and entered the room hard upon his knock, his reception was less daunting than might have been expected. He was certainly greeted with reproaches, but these were largely directed against his having encouraged Edmund to behave badly. As she blamed him for not having punished Edmund, her subsequent declaration that nothing would induce her to abandon her child to his unkindness sounded lame even in her own ears. She then burst into tears and said that no one had any consideration for her nerves. This outbreak of lamentation brought Phoebe into the room to beg her to restrain herself for Edmund's sake. "I am persuaded you cannot wish to distress him," she said. "Only think how disturbing for such a little boy to hear his mamma crying." "You are as heartless as Sylvester," wept Ianthe. "None of you cares for my sufferings." "Not I, certainly," said Sylvester. "Oh," gasped Ianthe, bouncing up in her bed. Indignation brought her sobs to an abrupt end, an angry flush reddened her cheeks, and her lovely eyes darted fire at Sylvester. "Not the snap of my fingers," said Sylvester. "You see, I am quite honest with you, Ianthe, and before you resume this affecting display of sensibility, listen to what I have to say to you. It has pleased you to remember for 4 years a foolish thing I once said to you. You have cast it in my teeth so often that you have come to believe I meant it. No, don't turn away your head. Look me in the face and answer me. Do you think that I could treat with unkindness all that I have left to me of Harry?" She said sulkily, picking at her handkerchief, "I am sure I never thought you cared so very much for Harry. You didn't shed a tear when he died." She stopped, frightened by the expression on his face. It was a moment before he spoke. Watching him, Phoebe saw that he was very pale. His satyr look pronounced, his lips tightly compressed. When he unclosed them, it was to say in a curt voice, "When Harry died, I lost a part of myself. We will not discuss that. I have only this to add. You are Edmund's mother, and you may visit him whenever you choose to do so. I have told you so many times already, but I'll repeat it. Come to Chance when you please, with or without your husband." Sir Nugent, who had been listening intently, exclaimed as the door shut behind Sylvester, "Well, upon my soul, that's devilish handsome of him. Now, you must own, my love, it is devilish handsome. Damn if I ever thought he'd invite me to Chance. The fact is, I hadn't a notion he liked me above half. I shall go, I think. I don't say it won't be a dead bore, no fun and gig, and the company pretty stiff-rumped, I dare say. But visiting at Chance, you know. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll invite him to drink a glass of wine with me. No, by Jove, I'll invite him to dine with me. Do you think I should change my dress, my love?" "No, might put him out of countenance. I shall put on a fresh neckcloth. That will exactly answer to the purpose." Full of these amiable plans, he hurried from the room. Ianthe dissolved into tears again, but showed signs of recovering her spirits when Phoebe assured her that she should take every care of Edmund upon the journey back to London. "Oh, dear Miss Marlowe, were it not for your going, I could not consent to his being taken from me," Ianthe said, clasping Phoebe's hand. "I'm sure you will care for him as well as I could myself, and if anyone is so unjust as to say that I deserted my child, you know it is untrue. If anyone should say such a thing to me, I shall reply that he was torn from your arms," promised Phoebe. "Excuse me, I must go back to him and blow out his candle." But when she reached the bedchamber she shared with Edmund, she checked on the threshold, for Sylvester was sitting on the edge of Edmund's crib. He got up at once, saying with some constraint, I beg your pardon. I should not be here, but Edmund called to me." "Of course, it's of no consequence," she said, in a more friendly tone than she had yet used to him. "Phoebe, Uncle Vester says my papa would have cut off one tassel, and he would have cut off the other," Edmund told her, his eyes sparkling. She could not help laughing. "I wonder how he could like it if you cut the tassels from his boots." "Ah, I have explained to him that it is a thing which must on no account be done to uncles," Sylvester said. He ruffled Edmund's curls. "Good night, vile brat." "You won't go away?" Edmund said, assailed by a sudden fear. "Not without you." "And Phoebe and Tom?" "Yes, they will both come with us." "Good," said Edmund, releasing his clutch on Sylvester's coat. "I dare say we shall be as merry as Greeks."